All right, YouTube. This is Detroit's HPTV coming to you on a Sunday. At this point, everybody in America knows that an attempt was made on Donald Trump's life. And since then, there's been a media frenzy, and you had people even out there saying that it was staged. You have people who are out there are even acting like they're celebrating. But today, we're going to talk about the elephant in the room. Now, Donald Trump was prosecuted for saying, "Find me the votes." Donald Trump was prosecuted because they said he incited others on January 6th. Everything that Donald Trump has said has been twisted and has been weaponized against him. But let's talk about the elephant in the room and how the left is complicit in what happened to him. For months and months, they've been saying he's a Nazi, he's Hitler, he's a fascist, he will destroy democracy. He is a criminal. He should be stopped. Joe Biden even said it's time to put him in the bullseye. That's dog whistling. And there is a great possibility that that type of language will incite fanatics. But the hypocrisy of the situation is you prosecuted Donald Trump for being on the phone saying, "Find me the votes." You said his speech incited others for January 6th. But you have demonized this man to the world. To the world. You called him Hitler. And as far as to my knowledge, he's never acted in a genocidal way toward anyone. You said he was a Nazi. You even said that Project 2025 was his, even though it was created by the Heritage Foundation for any presidential election. So you've been giving every lunatic on the fringe the reason to want to hurt Donald Trump, so that the criminal would look like a hero. You even have Willie D over there on his podcast in the title saying that the man who shot Donald Trump is being considered a hero. Do you think that on the left that y'all should get away with that? You guys really think you are not complicit? And then today, last night, Joe Biden comes out and says he wants to talk to why you want to talk to him? You said put him in the crosshairs. You've been demonizing him for the longest. Now, all of a sudden, after you used lawfare and everything you could to destroy the man's reputation and credibility, you expect the American people to really think that you're concerned with what happened to him, especially Joy Reid. I can't wait to see if MSNBC is going to allow Joy Reid to continue her rhetoric in the light of this. But I want to show you a recent clip that just happened a couple of days ago before the shooting. It's for fair uses under the 1976 copyright for educational purposes, commentary, and the First Amendment. Check out this.
We begin tonight with a deep dive into what Donald Trump and his sycophants have planned for the Department of Justice under Project 2025 and how they would use the DOJ to attack American citizens. The 28-page section of the...
Did you hear that? This is a lie. She said how they're going to use it to attack American citizens. She is telling American citizens that Donald Trump is getting into power so he can use the Department of Justice to attack American citizens. This woman, who is a first generation American, is sitting here telling the world that this man is trying to get in power so that he can attack the citizens of this country. So is it any surprise that a citizen of this country would try to attack him if he believes this rhetoric? Let's continue.
Project's manifesto covering the Department of Justice and the FBI is a nightmarish play-by-play on how to...
I'm going to stop and I'm going to let you hear, but I want you to listen to the key words. She called Project 25, which is a document from the Heritage Foundation, a manifesto, nightmarish. She's attributed to Trump, who had nothing to do with the writing of it. He had the platinum plan in Project 47. These liars, what are they doing this for if they're not dog whistling? Are they not inciting hatred and violence toward the man? Of course they are.
Turn the DOJ into the Office of Vengeance. But first, you should understand who's behind this horror show. This section was written by someone named Gene Hamilton, who is one of the roughly 30 former senior Trump administration officials who authored Project 2025. Hamilton is currently the legal director of America First Legal, the legal wing of the MAGA movement run by Heron Can aficionado and former Trump senior advisor Stephen Miller, the guy behind migrant family separation and the Muslim ban. According to Hamilton and the folks at the Heritage Foundation, the Department of Justice would no longer be independent in a second Trump administration. On page 559, Hamilton writes, while the supervision of litigation is a DOJ responsibility, the department falls under the direct supervision and control of the President of the United States as a component of the executive branch. Thus, and putting aside criminal prosecutions that can warrant different treatment, litigation decisions must be made consistent with the president's agenda. So just to be clear, a man who was found liable for sexual abuse, a man who tried to steal the 2020 election through a violent coup, a man who stole classified documents and shared our secrets to random supporters, a man who has repeatedly extolled the virtues of vengeance, would now direct litigation priorities at the Department of Justice. Now, let's say a bunch of future DOJ officials chose to object to a President Trump ordering the assassination of a political opponent and threaten a mass resignation. Well,
look at this. Look at her lying and look at the rhetoric. She's inciting people to hate and feel threatened and scared of Donald Trump. And she knows he had nothing to do with the writing of Project 2025. See, what the Democrats have done, they have backed conservatives in the corner and bullied conservatives to such an extent that they have emboldened the fanatics to attempt to take their candidate's life. So they know now, after this, that will be considered first blood. They know that the anger on the right is just at a fever pitch with the duplicitousness and evil and wickedness on the left. So now, of course, they're going to come out and they're going to say how sorry they are because they're really sorry that he survived it. They're really sorry he survived it because they're so twisted in their thinking that the retaliation that would have came from him losing his life, they would have avoided in their bunkers and left it to the American citizens and the foolish people that follow the Democratic Party to deal with. Do you really think Whoopi Goldberg and D.L. Hughley and Joy Reid and Roland Martin and Al Sharpton will stand with you against MAGA? They're using you as a human shield to MAGA in the violence and the things that they spew. They standing behind the people. That's why they keep telling you that he's going to do this and he's going to attack the citizen. When have Donald Trump ever gave you the inkling that he was going to attack American citizens? And then the black community, you celebrated when he released Kwame Kilpatrick, released Angela Stanton, pardoned Lil Wayne, released A$AP Rocky, created continual funding for HBCUs, took Omarosa to the White House, hang around with Mike Tyson to the point him and Mike Tyson are still friends. And you let these liars tell you this man was a racist so that you hate him too. Think about what you're seeing. Listen to what she's saying. And she knows it's all a lie.
Project 2025 has a plan for that too. They say, quote, the department's leadership is prepared to impose appropriate disciplinary action as circumstances arise. Those are the big ticket items, but there are the other very specific things they have in store for us all, like deciding what investigations the FBI can conduct, how to use federal laws to prosecute state and local crimes, superseding state officials, recommending initiating legal action against local district attorneys who disagree with Trump's criminalization policies, vigorously restricting voting access, ending consent decrees, enforcing the national abortion ban that's already on the books, and ending affirmative action discrimination, which is a cute way of demonizing civil rights. And guess what? The FBI will become Trump's own personalized armed enforcement service. According to Project 2025, the FBI is not independent and does not deserve to be treated as if it were. Now, you might doubt that they really want to do this, or that even if they do it, that you'll be safe. Well, that is where you are entirely wrong. Trump already tried to.
Why doesn't she realize that what she's doing is inciting violence with her lies and rhetoric, allegedly? She is doing a propaganda campaign and narrative to demonize and vilify a man who had nothing to do with the writing of Project 2025. And she knows this. Project 2025 was written from the Heritage Foundation that has been around since Ronald Reagan. So she's telling you this because she knows you don't read, and they're messing with your emotions. And that's why I think that they should be prosecuted. You prosecuted Trump for saying find the votes. You said that his rhetoric made people storm the Capitol. Everything that they've accused that man of, they've done. And now because the assassination attempt has failed and they've seen the outrage, now they want to come out and they want to act like they care and concern. It's a trick. It's a trick. Listen to some more lies.
Prosecute Hillary Clinton, the Clinton Foundation, and James Comey, but his previous White House counsel advised against it, and Department of Justice career officials failed to find a crime. And let's not forget, his DOJ literally locked up Michael Cohen for cooperating in the investigation of Trump and writing a book that he didn't like. Imagine what they could do with a department full of people who have literally chanted, "Lock her up." There would be targets on the backs of people like Congresswoman Liz Cheney, Congressman Benny Thompson, and any other member of the January 6th committee. Just this morning, Trump accused Speaker Emerita Nancy Pelosi of failing to do her job in protecting the Capitol from his supporters on January 6th. He said it was criminal. Yesterday, in a lie-filled screed, Trump called for the prosecution of, quote, election fraudsters, including Mark Zuckerberg, stating that they will be sent to prison for long periods of time. And what does that mean for you? Well, you won't have access to abortion. Police will have free reign to beat up and even kill people without consequences. You could be prosecuted for minor drug possession.
Why is she allowed to say that? Did you hear her say that the police will be allowed legally to kill you? Look at what she's saying to the people. How is this even journalism? Did you hear what she just said? Do you hear her lies? Do you hear her incitement? Do you hear the violence in her rhetoric? And this is what they have been doing consistently for months.
And they'll be enforcing the death penalty aggressively. Godspeed if you're a migrant, because they have detailed plans for you, which include national raids and prison camps. Joining me now is Melissa Murray, NYU law professor, MSNBC legal analyst, and co-host of the Strict Scrutiny podcast, and Ruth Ben-Ghiat, New York University professor of history and author of Strong Men, Mussolini to the Present. Thank you both for being here. Melissa, anything I missed in there and anything else we should be concerned about for the average American with that kind of DOJ?
That was a really comprehensive list, and it really does cover most of the 900 pages of Project 2025, which is essentially the Authoritarian's playbook. One point that I do want to mention here, though, is that The Supreme Court's decision on presidential immunity, which was announced just a week ago, has really given a major assist to Project 2025. One of the things that decision made very clear is that when the president is communicating with the DOJ or issuing orders through the DOJ, because the DOJ is viewed as an extension of the executive, of the president, those actions are immunized. Project 2025 ramps this up, puts it on steroids, makes it impossible, essentially, to prosecute the president or indeed anyone working through the DOJ for those acts because they are official acts within the perimeter of those official duties. It takes the unitary executive theory and really amps it up and makes the president essentially a king. So the court has laid a foundation to make Project 2025 not just palpable, but indeed something that will last and be lasting throughout our history of Donald Trump as president.
And Ruth, then how would we be any different from, say, Russia or China or any other authoritarian country?
Not much, in that the very definition of authoritarianism is when the executive branch overwhelms or politicizes or hinders from being independent the judiciary, the other branches of government, and so it but it's what's interesting is all the parts of Project 2025 work together, because you also have to have a compliant civil service, because fascists and authoritarians, they have to destroy to create. So they're going to take apart the DOJ as an independent body and make it into something else. That something is a body that will protect the president and his cronies from investigations, from prosecution. But it's not enough for the president to have immunity. You have to have a compliant civil service. So there we have the presidential, the training academy that's going to create what they call an army. They use that word, of vetted conservatives to go to work on day one. And so all of these things have to come together. And when you have a politicized civil service, and in the Nazi context, Hannah Arendt called these people the desk killers, the people who signed the orders to harass and repress people. And of course, later, in the German context, to do the Holocaust. But all these things must come into play. And the last thing that you must do is turn the public against the press, against journalists, so that any claims they make about prosecution, things that might be worthy of prosecution, are no longer believed by the public. And Donald Trump has already been able to do that.
Yeah, and then maybe just start arresting members of the press. Let me play something that is in a way sort of funny and absurd, but actually deadly serious in another way. This is Stephen Miller's America First Legal organization. This is one of their advertisements.
I am here today with an urgent message. America's biggest corporations and universities are illegally discriminating against Americans based on race and sex. These corporations and universities have adopted so-called diversity, equity, and inclusion policies that punish Americans for being white, Asian, or male. If you or a loved one were denied a job, raise, promotion, or professional opportunity as a result of diversity quotas, equity mandates, affirmative action, or other racial preferences, we want to hear from you.
Melissa, it's sort of one part ambulance chaser ad and one part NAAWP, Legal Defense Fund, right? But what he's doing there is what the Civil Rights Division of the Justice Department would change it to, right? A place where the whole mission would be to defend white privilege.
Yeah, that's exactly right, Joy. I mean, obviously, enforcement priorities shift from administration to administration. And we've seen, for example, under Republican administrations, there's been less enforcement of voting rights, for example, or less prosecution of voting rights claims. But Project 2025 explicitly says that the Office of Civil Rights within the Department of Justice and the Office of Civil Rights within the Department of Education will be dedicated to dealing with what they call reverse discrimination. So DEI measures in corporate America and in public institutions and in universities and colleges. Basically, the real racism to be fought is the racism and the racial injuries that are endured by white men, principally, and those who are outside of what they view as the affirmative action spectrum.
Yeah, and let's go on to the sort of apologists for this. People who are sort of trying, Ruth, to make this sound like it's not that big of a deal. So Bloomberg is reporting that the CEO of Warner Brothers, David Zaslav, has said regarding the presidential election, asked about the upcoming presidential election, he said it mattered less to him which party wins, as long as the next president was friendly to business. We just need an opportunity for deregulation, he said, so companies can consolidate and do what we need to do better. So, of course, they want lots of deregulation, meaning they'd probably be fine with having Trump. But I just want to remind Mr. Zaslav and others the way that this works in a country like Russia, because you said we'd be no different from that. The Kremlin has said that Vladimir Kara-Murza is, quote, stable in a Russian prison hospital, but we're not even sure that that's true. A Russian playwright and theater director was sentenced to prison for writing a play that Putin didn't like. And Russia has issued an arrest warrant for Yulia Navalny, who is the widow of Alexei Navalny, who they killed or allowed to die in a gulag. That's how it goes, right? If suddenly they don't like, Donald Trump doesn't like what David Zaslav has on his networks, he goes from being somebody who gets juicy deregulation and tax cuts to somebody who's kind of living like the Navalnys.
Yeah, but it's way beyond that, because he could say, well, I'm not a dissident. But Putin's state is a kleptocracy, as to various degrees, most authoritarian states are, they thrive on corruption. And by 2018, 1 out of 6 of every 6 Russian business person, if their business was like prospering, the state would come after it to either seize its assets or make money, because they would, find some they would fabricate some tax charge, crime, and so they prey on businesses. It's the same in Erdogan's Turkey, where the state has plundered and seized assets worth over $40 billion since the 2016 coup attempt. And so authoritarianism is not good for business.
Hey there, MSNBC fans. I'm Luke Russert, and be sure to join.
Well, you heard it. You heard it all. Comparing them to Nazi. I mean, you heard their rhetoric for months on end. Now, to lie on a person to this level, to turn the whole world against this man, could that be considered hate speech? Is it hate speech? Because it sounds very hateful to me. And if Trump, again, was prosecuted for saying, find me the votes, and then they said that his rhetoric created January 6th, he was prosecuted, how many of you out there in the chats think that all of this fear-mongering and slander and vilification and demonization of Trump did not play a part in the assault on his person? So what do you think? Do you think that based on how they have been using the law, that they should be prosecuted and charged as well? They did and said worse things than Trump. Tell me what you think. This is Detroit's HPTV coming to you out of Detroit. Support Detroit's Black Thought Action Collective. It's a nonprofit out of Detroit. As always, salute to all patriots. Like, share, and subscribe. Please consider everything you heard from her